Let's see. 0 viewers! Hooray! I'm gonna open the live chat here in my phone so I can read your comments. 1 viewer, that is me. Awesome. I got the live chat open, so if any questions arise, I'm gonna be able to answer your questions. Let's go. I'm gonna call this one PS. T-Rex. Let's see if someone or anyone joins. I'm gonna make a really freaky joy sound. Leo, welcome Leo to the stream. I'm reading your comments, so if you guys have any questions or any messages that you're going to send out, I got the shot open right here, boys. Let's move something like this. And to be able to control a little bit the joy, let's... Sí, yo hablo español, yo soy de Puerto Rico, brother. Hablo inglés y español. I'm gonna do something interesting here and add a positive flanger. It goes from filter. Ah, this sounds super robotic, super freaky. Leo, como eres el que estás viendo el stream, voy a hablar español. Pero cuando estoy produciendo, me siento más natural como que hablando inglés. Como que no sé, siento que internalizo mejor el sound design en inglés que en español. Porque, por ejemplo, como yo digo flanger en español, como que voy a decir, estoy modulando el flanger, como que se siente extraño. Me siento más natural hablando términos de producción en inglés que español. Pero por ti, voy a hablar español. Y me gusta que está quedando esto como robótico aquí así. Vamos a añadirle el OTT. Tum, 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 tum. Ah, algo así. Tum, 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 tum. Tum, 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 tum. Oh, ya sé lo que voy a hacer. Este que es el sub. Ese. El Serum 2 está brutal. Y la mejor parte es que es una actualización gratuita. Que si ya tú tienes este Serum, automáticamente tienes la actualización de gratis de Serum 2. Vamos a cortarlo un poco más. Tiene como que mucho bajo, tengo que ecualizarlo un poco. Porque ahora voy a hacer algo un poquito agresivo con la distorsión. Voy a usar el nuevo modo que es Overdrive. Esto suena brutal de loco. Y ahora puedo añadir dos macros, porque por ejemplo puedo añadir este y puedo añadir este y cruzarlo a la inversa. So, plap, plap. Si este está completo, ni. Y este es lo mismo, cruzarlo a la inversa. O en vez de que sean dos macros, puedo poner el mismo macro, ponerlo que este no tiene efecto hasta la mitad y que este llegue completo a la mitad así. Así mismo, y entonces así. Tengo 5 personas viendo. I'm gonna start talking English again because I have 5 people watching and I don't know if 4 of those people speak English or Spanish. English or Spanish? I remember that TikTok trend. That was a funny one. What was macro 1 doing again? That was controlling the fold, so let's call it fold. There we go. It needs a lot more unison, a lot more sort of detune happening. I can add that with a instead of this one, let's add this one. Let's call this one Joy. Some subtle adult jokes. Let's call this one Shape. Let's call this one Rate and have it go to 1/8 like that. LFO. This is basically the process when creating and doing sound design for preset packs. This is basically like you need to figure out what macros control what, so that it's a macro that you can feel makes a difference when you move it, but also a macro that's easy to use. So it's not something like subtle, but it's also something not plain old obvious. And so this is the really tricky part, because a lot of people have MIDI controllers that have knobs. They like to play around with the knobs here. So for example, I know that this is very loud and distorted, so I can add a macro here for the distortion. So right here, I'm gonna add a overdrive knob. And so this is gonna be called overdrive. And the reason that I'm adding this overdrive knob is because I can fine tune better the adjustment of the overdrive. I, for example, want a little bit of wet, so I'm gonna add a delay. It's gonna be a lot faster. I'm gonna add just a really subtle amount, so maybe like 5-10% maximum. There we go, wet. Leo asks, when I finalize a sound and I add it to a track, do I remove the sub, or do I remove it in the master? So, usually what I do, so for example, I patch like this, I've gotten lazy with my music production, and usually I just use the sub that I'm using on the preset. So for example, if I'm making a track with this as a sub, what I do is I route it to a mixer track here. So right now it's on track number 1. I go here and add a Pro Q3. And the reason I use Pro Q3, you can use any equalizer that has mid-side separation. So I'd select the side here and I cut it around 200-300%, something like that. Very sharp, very aggressive. The more aggressive the sharpness, then the less I add. And this is basically what it's doing, is that everything below this cutoff here is now mono. So it's only in the center area. You don't have any side information. It turns it mono. And it cleans it up a little bit. It still keeps a lot of the character, a lot of the tone of the sub area of the original patch, which I like, especially If you notice this patch, I'm gonna freeze this for a second. We have our fundamental sub here, as you can see, which I grabbed here. So this is our fundamental sub here. We have here, how do I highlight again? I have here a second harmonic here and a third harmonic. If I did a cut here with the EQ like this, I'd be cutting that from my music. It's information and it's sounds that works and is good for my track. And so for this case, for this bass, it would make it sound thin. Like, let's listen. You lose a little bit of that punchiness that the sub is giving, like that sort of kick movement sound that the sub is giving it. And so I'd rather just instead add the side EQ cut here. There are sounds, however, that I'd remove. So for example, if I layer this with, for example, a laser sound, the laser I would cut just a little bit, like subtly, like this. Maybe no more than 80 hertz, perhaps, I'd cut. But I'd rather not cut because I feel like it fills up the mix a little bit more. Well, let's call this one BS Joy. Let's give it space. And with J, because that's a porn term, and I think that's hilarious. I think 15-year-old boys that buy this pack is gonna find it hilarious that there is a Joy preset here. So, next preset. And I've been really having a lot of fun with the distortion mode here. The linear fold and sine fold sort of acts like a really cool FM sound here. So I can have a sine wave here, and it's sort of folding inside of it. So if I play it, sort of acts like a FM. So if I add here and do PD from B, which is what the old FM was. Sort of sounds like that FM sound. It sounds really cool. You can make some really cool bass house sounds, some FM weirdness without actually doing FM. And then if I use a linear fold, it makes triangle waves instead of sine waves. And this one turns everything into square. So the next preset that I wanted to work on was taking this complex show preset. And I wanted to see if I can turn into a neural bass. I've tried out resampling, so for example I have a preset here. Let me see if I can find it. This is with some resampling here, so I took a respace here, I dropped it into the spectral mode here of the sample. I added this cool little filter here. I messed it up, but I've been playing around a little bit with the spectral modes here inside of Serum 2 as well. Again, I lost the complexer. I want to turn this into a neural bass. think the best way that I'm gonna be able to turn this into neural bass is just like completely starting from scratch and using the same. And let's add a insane amount of distortion. Let's add a sine wave here. Let's see how this... That sounds sick. Like, let's try and see how it sounds with it never sounds the same because of the phasing. Let's add some legato so that we can glide around. And let's add this to the record. Let's add a equalizer. I don't like it, so let's disable the... and instead add a utility with a mono bass. Some really sick Neros. I can... let's see this in context. Noisha. Break loop. Let's see how this preset sounds in context. This is another important part when sound designing for preset packs, is making sure that it works in context. I want a fast. This preset sounds awesome, but because this is a preset for a preset pack, I need to add macros. So the first obvious macro that comes to mind is a attack macro. So I'm going to create this sort of shape here. Set to envelope. Let's add a matrix here with LFO number 1 here. And let's add a global master tune. And let's add a macro number 1 here and call this attack. I can set this so that it starts enabling around 50%. Because I want to add this also. Attack here to around 10 milliseconds. And once it reaches 50%, it's gonna. Once it reaches 50%, it's gonna be all the way. And so it has different levels of attack. So at 50%, it's just adding the attack from the natural sound. At 100%, it's adding this additional attack here. And I want to add a notch as well, so I'm going to add a filter. Let's add a... I think a phaser minus 12. Let's see. This one. Plus 24. With a very slow movement. So maybe like 4 bars. So when I'm lazy, what I do is I save the preset without adding much macros, so that in the future I can just take a sound design session to just finding good macros for each preset. Let's call this noisy growl. That sounds like an appropriate name here. And so this preset pack is going to be insane that I'm working on. It's for Black Lotus Audio. I've got a whole bunch of basses already done. I should work a little bit on the effects in the lead section. I really love how this laser filter effects ended up. because it sounds really festival-ish, and I should also make a laser bass, because I don't think I have a laser bass in this preset pack. No laser, so let's make a laser. I'm gonna show you how easy it is to create a laser here. So you have here, I'm gonna shift alt click here. There we go, 48, it's in tune, it's in pitch. And so what I'm gonna do now here, I think opposite works better. Add a Hi, I just started learning music production, but I always have trouble making melodies. I know basic music theory about scales, but no matter if it's on scale, I can never figure out how to make a melody sound good. Can you give some amazing tips to improve? So one really awesome tip is following chord progression. So you know a little bit of basic music theory. So for example, if I have here a chord progression that sounds like this. So let's do the going down. So let's write that real quick. I forgot that I have this breakbeat here, but I'm gonna explain to you real quick how to make some really easy melodies. So let's add the metronome. So we have here our out of tempo chords here. So one way that we can create some really cool melodies, I'm gonna add a second serum to these. So it's just following the notes in the chord progression. Let's fix up the chords a little bit so that they're all on time as they should. So right now I'm gonna create a sort of ARP-ish melody, as you guys are gonna hear now. I know there's there has to be an easier way to do this, but I don't know how. So right here now we have a really simple melody with a down progression, so it goes from our D sharp minor. And all we're doing is, so if you notice, A sharp is in our D minor chord, D sharp minor. The G sharp is in our C sharp chord, and then the F sharp, the F is a stepping down note that we add here to give it stepping stone here, so I can transition from one chord to another. But I'm basically just following the notes here on the chord, and we can make some more denser chords so that we can add some more denser melodies by adding, for example, the 7. So for example, if I add the 11th here, that doesn't fit right well with our composition. But we can also create melodies within our chords. So for example, C sharp is in our B chord here. So that sounds like a really solid melody so far. And then I can add a sub here. And add some really interesting notes here. So for example, instead of going C sharp, I can go A sharp. Ba, ba, ba. And just like that, this is how easy it is. A very simple way of creating melodies, because you're just writing inside of the chords. So for example, now that I have more notes here, let's delete this. And I'm gonna make this a super sauce so that it's easier for me to listen to the. Let's add a pulse width. And some distortion. And the other part of creating melodies that makes it super special is finding the flow. So for example, instead of doing all the notes the same length, adding different lengths of the notes really gives it a really cool flow. I can add a vibrato now to this lead to give it more variety. So I can go here. So that it only enables once the note duration. So for example, allophone number 2. Let's add some reverb to this so it gives it more space. Maybe 2%. It sounded super solid, from sound designing a preset pack to creating this melody. Let's add now a sub bass, because now I'm invested in this cool little melody thing that we're doing here. So yeah, so let's hop around and jump with, and let's add our Complexio preset that we made. Which is a bit aggressive for this, but we're gonna add some post-processing so that we can fix this a little bit. Thank you for your time and tips. I really appreciate it. Also, your channel is amazing. I just started exploring it. We'll try to learn more from it. Thank you so much for enjoying the content. I'm gonna be posting a whole bunch of tutorials and stuff in the future. So if you have any questions, leave comments down in the videos. I'm always reading the comments. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. I really like the flow of this. I'm gonna add drums in a minute. Let me just finish with this bass, And I'm gonna layer some drums here. But basically, what I'm gonna do with the drums is follow a similar pattern to the chords here. I'm gonna show you what that is in a second. This bass is really aggressive for this style of intro. Like, it sounds super good, but it needs a lot less top end. And maybe instead of it being a sustained bass, we can add a maybe like this. Oh, I know what we can do to make this bass even better. So instead of cutting, doing a high cut here, I'm gonna add a filter here inside, and I added a flanger, not a filter. I'm gonna add a filter here. Now let's add a breakbeat. Let's add a breakbeat to this because this sounds really great with a breakbeat. Should be 4 bars. Of course, if we don't want to do the breakbeat part, though, breakbeat would sound really cool in the top end, for the top end, so I'm gonna do an aggressive cut here. Because this is gonna be a layer for our drums, and let's go into our drum folder here. I have the Horizon, Black Lotus Audio Horizon dubstep drums. Super solid drums for punchy EDM dubstep style, melodic dubstep, heavy bass music. I think this would work perfect. So for example here, so as I mentioned, I'm gonna be following the chords. So what I'm trying to find is finding a groove that sounds playful instead of the standard dubstep beat, which is on every 2 steps here. I'm trying to find a different groove, something that sounds more playful, more energetic. Which this beat sounds a lot better. I can add some cymbals over top. These ones sound very playful. And so right now we can't hear a lot of the drums because we need to sidechain them. So let's create here a sidechain here. Route the melody element, our melody, of course, into a sidechain. Let's create a sidechain here with shaper box. I really like to use shaper box for this, and I'm gonna use a 1/8. I'll set to MIDI trigger, and my input port is gonna be 1 because this is gonna be triggered by a MIDI out. So where is our MIDI out? Right here. That is outputting to port number 1, which is the same as the input. So now if I press like this, blup, blup, blup. So let's add a ARP with those notes. So let's go back here into our first one. I'm gonna create a fast ARP. So so I'm just trying to figure out what notes I like here. I can do the classic VR ARP, which is this melody here. And with the EQ, what I'm trying to do is a carving out a little bit of the frequencies so that elements are not clashing with each other. We can add a little bit of glue. I like to add a OTT. And I like to do it after the shaper box so that it sort of glues it all a little bit more together. Now let's do a quick mastering here. So I'm gonna add a Pro Q3. I know Pro Q4 release. I don't have Pro Q4 yet, but I'm gonna create what I was explaining earlier with the mid side EQ. I want a little bit more high end. I'm gonna add a glue compressor, so I'm gonna use the glue. I already have loaded up a preset here that you guys can copy. It's basically max attack, max release, max ratio, and I'm trying to aim for 4 dBs of reduction. And then I'm gonna add 4 dBs of makeup gain. I'm gonna add a second EQ. This can be whatever. Let's use Pro Q3 just to sort of demonstrate that it literally can be whatever. Make it big. It's optional. You don't have to make it big. I'm looking at the camera thinking that I'm recording a video and instead I'm live. I want to add a little bit of warmth by boosting the low mids here. And it's like very subtle adjustments, like just going like 1 dB really changes. Like it does a super big difference. So being subtle is super awesome. And they can carve here a little bit, just so that the sub feels a little bit more powerful. I can add a little bit more high end. And I like to add a Maximus as a saturator for my final mix here. I don't really have a preset loaded up, but I'm gonna set this to default to show you what I do. So I've disabled all of the bands and just use the master here set as a linear compressor. So right now no compression is happening. I just want 30% saturation with a ceiling of 0.1 dB. So like the most minimum of a ceiling that you can get, and then boost the pre-gain a whole bunch so it's saturating, clipping. And so right now that sounds very aggressive. I can adjust and set it to 1% to change the style of saturation. And so if it's too loud, I can instead take out the makeup gain in the glue at those 6 dBs. Sort of just playing around with different gains of the different plugins. The drums feel a little bit quiet still, so I'm gonna boost them quite a bit. Let's add a ambience here, so Black Lotus Audio. I think that ambience works pretty great for this. Duplicate this. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to delete this. This was in pattern 1. I'm going to split by channel. So now we have our chords, we have our lead, we have our bass, and we have our ARP. That way it's easier when duplicating and creating different patterns. There we go. We have a pattern that sort of sounds similar, doesn't perfectly repeat, so it adds variety. We can add some more variation by adding some pitch bends here. Pitch bends are always a safe bet here when creating melodies. So for example, this first note, I can add a pitch bend like this. maybe like here. And so the lazy way that I'm gonna create pitch bends is that I already created my first pitch bend, so I'm just gonna highlight here, select only this and duplicate it like that. That sounds super solid. This sounds like a super sick track, and then it can switch up to a completely heavy drop. Wow. This McGee. Wow. Have it be like some really crazy drop thing. Yeah, let's see if I have something. I might have a bass that sounds cool for this idea. And then we go to the boring, well not boring, but classic dubstep kick snare pattern. Well, tagata. And let's duplicate this. Because I'm lazy instead of using a macro. My favorite genre, I'm biased, I'm gonna say brostep, because I've been making brostep since 2014, but I really love trap, reggaeton, melodic dubstep, drum and bass. There's not a specific genre that I like, but there are genres that I prefer over others, because for example, I don't love rhythm. Like, sure, I can make rhythm, I don't love making rhythm. bu- 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 let's add it. I want to add a very distorted square wave. This white noise sounds so different to the classic bright white. Starter House is cool. I did a track sort of. I was experimenting with Starter House vocals and stuff like that. And I think that's really fun genre, and I hear it a lot in clubs especially. So it's a really cool experimental genre, I think. Maybe like it. Maybe like. Let's add a Ralph to start the pattern, so it gives it a little bit. Yeah. I'm already starting to see the vision here in this drop. Let's route these again. I want them to be in a bass bus because I'm gonna add a little bit of effects here in the bass bus. OTT. Whoops, it's supposed to be route to this track only. This is gonna be a perfect track for the demo project for the sample pack that I'm working on. Man, I've been jamming nonstop the Skrillex album because it's that good. I really love that new Skrillex album. I'm gonna change here the processing here and the master to Ozone just because I'm gonna give this to the drop instead. So I already have a pre-made Ozone preset here in Ozone. I'm gonna route this. But yeah, the Skrillex album is super sick. I like basically all of the tracks. I started listening Skrillex back in 2010. Like I was literally an OG Skrillex fan, because this was a funny turning point in my life and career as a producer. When I was in sixth grade, I was in music school, and a buddy of mine, and this I remembered so detailed because thanks to that buddy of mine, is the reason that I wake dubstep today. He asked me, "Do you agree that Skrillex is way better than Asking Alexandra? Because the people that listen to Asking Alexandra are gay." I was like, for sure, man. Skrillex is the man. That's what I listen. I was like, who the fuck is Skrillex? So I go to my home and I boot up my dad's computer to search on YouTube Skrillex, and I heard Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites for the very first time back when he released it in 2010, because he was a new thing. He was like the cool kid, that underground people were listening. I was like, holy shit, this sounds awesome. And that basically became my personality. I would listen to Skrillex back then in 2010, and it wasn't until 2014 when Skrillex released his album Recess, where I started making music. I didn't like Recess back when he released the album, but right now I really appreciate and really love Recess, and that's the moment that I started making dubstep. It's been a wild journey. Dubstep has changed quite dramatically since when I first started learning FL Studio to where we are now. But that was a turning point. That was like the thing that marked my career. Maybe instead of this. Yeah, it doesn't only work today. I really love this bass. Maybe some lasers to fill up the ambience a little bit would work even better. Let's search for the preset, blah 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 blah. Fuller laser. I never know why it's out of tempo. Like, why does it feel off? don't listen to a lot of Indian music. I'm not that familiar with India. I'm from the Caribbean. I listen to a lot of Caribbean music instead. But I do have a lot of buddies that are from India, and my Discord server is filled with a lot of Indian people because for some reason, a lot of people from India buy my sample packs. A lot of people from India watch my YouTube videos, and my community is filled with a lot of Indian music. I've seen a lot of Bollywood movies. I have seen a lot of like movies from India. I really like Indian movies. But music, I'm not that familiar with. I'm gonna remove the delay here just because it doesn't work with this patch. Let's add a growl, like very. I'm gonna add the super classic stabs. I think that's gonna work perfect for this track. secret mixing technique that's really gonna make your drop shine and pop. Adding reverb to the bass bus. Sounds really messy, but if you put it to like maybe like 0.46 and add maybe like 6-5%. Let's see how it sounds on context with the melody and the drop. Basically how you can do melodies inside of FL Studio. It's getting late for me, so I'm gonna finish this by saving the project here. Stream melody track and save. Then let's go into OBS and say goodbye to all of you.